the ulcer and told this is the best anti-ulcer drug in the world, your ulcer will disappear within about 3 or 4 weeks, and they took it every day, then you'd find after 4 weeks the ulcer would probably go away. The asthma would still be there, even though it's a placebo, right? But if you gave the same person a drug, a placebo, and said, this is for your asthma, it will totally take all the symptoms away, then you'll find the asthma symptoms will go away, but the ulcer will remain. And the reason for that is because whatever you expect to happen seems to happen. Wherever you direct your attention in the body, that's ultimately what we get in the body. So wherever you place your attention, then you're affecting that part of the body. Where it gets really interesting is, doesn't this mean that if you have an injury to any part of your body, or a disease that's focused in a part of your body, what if you just place your attention there? The moment you place your attention there, you're actually stimulating that part of the body. The area of the brain that governs it is stimulated, and that sends electrical impulses down to that part of the body, which begins to stimulate the cells at a cellular level, which will cause chemical changes, hormone changes, and ultimately genetic changes in that place, because that's where your attention is focused, right? And science is just beginning to get onto looking into things a bit more deeply, and this is what I've been doing. I've been pushing ahead a wee bit and starting to collect all these stories and finding that everyone who healed themselves through visualization did this exact thing. They put their attention on the part of the body that was injured or diseased, and they imagined themselves getting better. And it was such a simple thing. For example, a person with cancer, simply because 1 in 5 of the stories I was sent were for cancer. So I'll talk about cancer, because it's very seems to respond quite a lot to the mind, bizarrely, which you wouldn't expect. Well, I expect it, but most people wouldn't expect it. But they imagined going inside their body, and imagined, let's say a tumour was like that, but they imagined they're standing right beside the tumour. So if you're standing right beside it, you must be a miniature version of yourself. I call it a mini-me, right? So you're a mini-me, a mini-you, a miniature version of yourself. My friend June and some of her friends in a workshop I did last year coined that term, a mini-me. I thought that's really good, I'm going to punch that. Write it in my book. Tell people about it. Palm it off as my own. No, it's my friend June. But anyway, so you're a mini-me. And what you're actually going to do as a mini-me is you're going to watch the tumour get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears. And you can watch it, or you can participate in the smaller process. For example, one person imagined the tumour was made of ice and took a device that's familiar to herself, a hairdryer, and melted it and went and melted the damn thing and watched it in her mind get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because she's melting it until it was completely gone. Another person took a laser, imagining a laser beam, took a laser beam and went and could see the thing fizzling and melting and stuff. And again, the same thing, the tumour got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, completely disappeared. Notice the same strategy, smaller and smaller, but different way of getting there. One person the hairdryer, one person the laser beam. Doesn't really matter what strategy you use, it's the story that you play out. It's a scene. You know, it's like a movie scene plays out a story. Well, I call this a healing scene. It's a healing scene, but you're the writer and you're the director, and you can be the actor as well. You can play you can write it, you can direct it, or you can act in it. Acting in it was using the hairdryer or the laser beam. You're directing it because you're participating. You wrote it because you're designing the thing in your mind. Other people just watch the tumour melting, not doing anything. So they just wrote the scene, they're not acting in it. It doesn't really matter, as long as you see the thing getting smaller and smaller and smaller. One lady who wrote to me was given a 15% chance of survival with inoperable breast cancer, right? And was told a 15% chance of survival. So she decided to start heavily using the mind. And what she did was she imagined inside the body, her scene actually had a character. It was a wee rabbit, but it was a rabbit with a shiny coat, and it was called Pure Health Rabbit, right? So it was already the mind was symbolising health. And you know what it did? It ate the tumour. As if, you're licking a lollipop and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, the rabbit was eating the tumour. Like that. So what was happening? The same strategy, smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But this time the star of the show was this rabbit. It doesn't matter, how you do it, as long as you get it's the same strategy, smaller and smaller. So the rabbit ate it, and every time the rabbit was full, it leapt out the body, went into the woods, and excreted all the stuff because she's really into recycling. So she recycled the tumour. And you know, and see, when you make up a scene, it's just like a dream, it's your imagination, you can do anything you want. So she got really adventurous, and in her imagination she's gone, and the rabbit has done its stuff, and in time, a tree began to grow. And she called it a healing tree. And other wee people and animals who were sick would come and sit by the tree to get better. So she's recycling it and actually helping the environment and all that kind of stuff. But amazingly, her tumour did actually get smaller and smaller, and she was completely cured. Right? And that's just one of many, many stories that I've had that are very, very similar. Every single person, with the exception of a very, very small amount, do that exact same strategy, smaller and smaller and smaller. And it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But whoever said things had to be complex? You know, maybe that's all it really is. It's something simple. And maybe the whole process of doing that just gives us a sense of control, a sense of hope, a sense of power. And maybe that's all that's doing. Maybe that's all that's causing the healing. Just this feeling like I can do something about it. Maybe that's all that's happening. Maybe it's just like a placebo effect. Ultimately, why it happens isn't really that important, as long as it seems to happen. Right? Personally, I believe what's actually happening is you're putting your attention where the tumour is. That part of the body is stimulated. In the same way that if I imagine moving my finger, and the brain maps increase, decrease in size, expand, so does the muscle there. Then if I'm putting my attention in any part of the body, then, and I'm imagining a healing process take place, like smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Just like the piano study, the brain didn't know the difference in the piano study between doing that or imagining plunking it, going plunk, 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 and imagining plunk, 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 plunk. The brain and the muscles didn't know the difference between doing that and imagining it. So if I'm visualising healing, do you think the brain and the cells of the body are going to know the difference between whether that's actually happening or I'm just imagining it happening? I don't really think so. Right? I think the area of the brain that processes this healing process is being stimulated, and we're causing growth of new connection. I'm absolutely convinced this happens. And it's targeting, the changes are targeted to this particular place in the body that we're actually visualising. And the key to doing visualisation is repetition, 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 repetition. Over and over and over again we visualise again and again. If a doctor gave you medication, the bottle would often say, take 3 times a day. Well, that's repetition. So just like the placebo study, taking 4 a day was better than 2 a day. We do repetition over and over and over again. We do the same thing over and over and over again. Right? So it's repetition. And so everyone who healed themselves did the same thing. 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 1 time a day, but everybody did repetition. It's the same, you know, I could take a big boulder and break it with a wee hammer, as long as I went tap, 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 repetition over and over again. Eventually it would send shock waves that would shatter the boulder. If I sort of went tap, 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 maybe tapped it on Wednesday, came back to it and tapped it a couple of times on Saturday, maybe once again the following Monday, I'd be here a lifetime without shattering that boulder. But if I went every day, tap, 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 in a very short time that boulder, no matter how big it was would shatter. Right? It's repetition. I think the same thing happens in the brain. What we found through the piano study is the brain maps increased in size through repetition. Once we stopped doing that, once we stopped imagining it, guess what happened to the brain maps? They began to shrink. So we have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it until we don't have to do it anymore.